What's up, everyone? Welcome to Level 7. It is time for another episode of the Agents of Fandom podcast. I'm your host, TJ Zwarych, and after a few days in Toronto for the Andor red carpet, and a few days in Calgary for the Calgary Expo, and another couple days in Toronto for what I can finally tell you all is coming tonight, my Thunderbolts interview with the legendary Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Val herself will be dropping tonight on our YouTube page and wherever you get your podcasts. Just have to wait for our article to be ready to drop with it because, spoiler alert, we got a little exclusive dropping from it. So stay tuned wherever you get your pods, up on our YouTube page at Agents Fandom, on TikTok and Twitter, Agents of Fandom, everywhere else. In addition to our full breakdown of Thunderbolts, we will have very soon our interview with Val herself, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, dropping on the page. Joining me, as always, I have my great friend and co-host, Damon Gray. How you doing, Damon?
I don't have to host today. I'm so happy.
I wish you still did because you were so good at it. And I was watching that show thinking, like, not only would I prefer if Damon did this all the time, I think the show might be better for it if Damon did it all the time, but I don't think I'll be able to convince you since you already do such a wonderful job on the Comic Corner. Speaking of the Comic Corner, we have your co-host joining us for tonight's show as well. AF, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. It's 2 a.m. over in Cape Town. I had an amazing nap just before the show, so I'm ready and I'm excited to get into this.
Very happy you join us. Very thankful that you stayed up with us. You have a busy weekend because you're at Cape Town Comic Con this weekend as well. How's that been so far?
It's been fun. There are more comic creators at this one compared to international celebrities, which I'm more than okay with. Just getting down into the digs with all of the writers and the artists, and yeah, just geeking out with all of them. So yeah, I'm having a blast.
Glad you are enjoying yourself. I'll also have some interviews dropping soon with some comic creators from Calgary Expo. We talked to Jason Aaron. We talked to quite a few great guests that they had there. So stay tuned for that one. Speaking of great guests, wow, the segues are just lining up right for me today. We have our good friend, multi-time guest of the show, co-author of MCU, The Reign of Marvel Studios, Dave Gonzales. How you doing, Dave?
I'm doing good. It's good to be back. Man, you can't believe what it's like to release a book on Marvel Studios and they're like, next year, only one movie. I'm so happy we're here in 2025 with Marvel movies all around. Excellent book, excellent movies. Good to be back.
Glad to have you back. And if you haven't checked out the book, make sure you do, because in addition to all of the great, incredible details and information that come within this book, you also get a nice little surprise on the back of it, because you can find a snippet of the wonderful Carlos Freitas' review of MCU, The Reign of Marvel Studios, on the back of the book. And Carlos, who we just recently had on the podcast as well to talk about the last few episodes of Andor. So check out that episode if you haven't yet. We're breaking down Andor every Tuesday, The Last of Us every Monday, the Comic Corner is every Thursday. And this week, of course, we got Thunderbolts coming on Friday right now as well as we speak. Before we dive into the movie, I want to know what you're watching, because AF, I have no idea what you've been watching lately. Dave, we haven't talked in a while. I have no idea what you've been watching. Damon, you've been at home sick, giving blood because you're crazy. I assume that means maybe you've had some rest time where you've gotten to watch some TV. What you been watching?
Rick and Morty.
Nice.
Which is a perfect little there you go. Yeah. I was gonna say, which is a perfect little segue into the multiverse saga.
Yeah. Happy Kang Dynasty release day, everybody.
Yeah. Of course, slotting right in the weekend that Avengers Kang Dynasty was originally supposed to come out.
So yeah, been watching that, and more importantly, reading a lot of comic books, specifically this one right behind me right here called Ultimate Spider-Man. I say it every week. I'm going to keep saying it. If you're not reading these Ultimate comics, guys, you should, especially this Ultimate Spider-Man. It's fantastic. It is fantastic. And also, I'm going to say it at the end, but I'm going to say it now because you're watching now. Free Comic Book Day is tomorrow. Go to your local comic shop. Go pick up the free promotional comics, and at the same time, go buy some comics off the shelf. The first 2 trades of Ultimate Spider-Man are out. Go pick them up. And maybe Spider-Man isn't your thing. The first trade of It's Jeff came out this week. That's for everyone. Go pick that up.
Check out Free Comic Book Day. If you're listening to this on Saturday morning, Free Comic Book Day is today. So go check it out. Of course, we're recording this live on a Friday night, so that means makes it tomorrow. But just in case you're listening over the weekend, make sure you get out and check out Free Comic Book Day. AF, how about you? What you been watching?
Yeah, just like everybody else, I've been watching The Last of Us, been watching Andor. But also, I'm not sure if anybody else has been watching this over the past few years, but there's a series called All American, based on the life of Spencer Paysinger, the former NFL player. It's sort of a light storytelling of how he got into the NFL and all of the difficulties he had to overcome. So yeah, it's been a cool series. It's over on Netflix if anybody's keen to check it out. But yeah, I've been enjoying myself with it.
I've been doing a lot of flying, but I actually haven't been watching much. I've been listening to a podcast, and I've been listening to the Braving the Elements podcast, the Avatar Rewatch pod from Nickelodeon, hosted by Janet Varney, who voices Korra, and Dante Bosco, who I just got to chat with again over the weekend at Calgary Expo. We didn't get to do an interview, but he did promise me that we would be doing one in Edmonton, because the last time him and I spoke at an Edmonton Expo 3-4 years ago, whenever that was, I hadn't watched Avatar The Last Airbender since I was a kid. And so I had to go to Damon for all the questions. I pronounced Uncle Iroh's name wrong. I think I called him like Ero. I don't know. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I pronounced it right.
Uncle Ero.
I pronounced something wrong in it. And funny enough, he hadn't watched any of Avatar The Last Airbender at that time either, since he was, in it and reading the scripts and seeing some of the episodes. And now, since he has this Braving the Elements podcast, he has done a full rewatch multiple times. In the last 3 years, I've probably watched Avatar The Last Airbender 8 times all the way through, and Legend of Korra 5 times all the way through. So really excited to get back and talk to him again now that we're both like fully back in our Avatar zone. And I've 12 episodes into the podcast so far, still only in book 1, but really enjoying their breakdowns of the episodes and all the guests that they have on. It's been an absolute blast listening to it. Hopefully we'll get an interview here soon with Dante. And I haven't gotten a chance to meet Janet Varney before, but if she ever shows up at a con near me, that's going to be very high on my list, because I do love me some Korra. Dave, what you been watching?
Oh, it sounds like a lot of the same stuff you guys are. Neil Miller and I relaunched the Storm of Spoilers podcast to cover The Last of Us Season 2. He's replaying the video game on Twitch, and then we'll watch the episode and get together and talk about adaptation choices, which has been super fun. And then we're going to do, because Peak TV is happening once again, even though we got rid of Sweeps month still happens. So we're going to do 4 Andor episodes, one covering each BBY year cluster of episodes after the whole series is over, rather than try to juggle all of those things. So given that you guys seem to be on top of all those things, we'll throw out to listeners, if you guys have that lingering Apple TV subscription since Succession's over, but you're still subscribed, The Studio has been a lot of fun for me. It is a comedy that Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg made, that is behind the scenes of a fake studio head as he tries to navigate the problems with running a studio in the current age. The Catherine O'Hara pops up in the first episode and in other episodes, but as basically As
And
somebody
in
who's
The Last of Us too, where Catherine O'Hara fans are eating right now.
Oh yeah, but I will say for the studio fans and for superhero movie fans, that first episode gave me so much Amy Pascal in her character's portrayal in the good and bad ways. A female producer I really respect, but has been through some shit. I think that's a pretty fun thing to do. And then it's also great because they have like celebrity cameos. They have one episode where Olivia Wilde is filming her movie on film, and they lost a reel, and it suddenly becomes a noir mystery about a noir mystery searching for this lost film reel. So I think it's really smart and really funny, and it builds to a whole bunch of stuff that I think we as people who pay attention to movie and television news sort of always suspected was happening behind the scenes, and it's great to watch it play out. I've described it as like Entourage without the misogyny, and it's been doing pretty good in that front.
It's very, very good television. It does have some of that type of comedy that just makes me like so incredibly uncomfortable. Like the One Shot episode, the Oner episode where the lead, Seth Rogen, he's goes by Matt Remick. He just does so many things with such a lack of social awareness that make me just feel so much secondhand embarrassment. But it is truly an incredible television. The Olivia Wilde episode was so funny. The Ron Howard episode is hilarious. Yeah. The Martin Scorsese episode is like devastating and hilarious at the same time. I think I have 2 episodes I need to catch up on, so looking forward to catching that up on that on Apple TV. But the people are here to listen to us talk about Thunderbolts. I'm so thankful because Dave, we've been like doing pretty well over the last 2 years of like getting you on for our Marvel movie reviews. And so I'm thankful for that. And we kind of had a funny lingering question after Captain America Brave New World when we talked about it. We see President Red Hulk Ross, but we had no inkling who the hell was the vice president. And now we have Val getting I want to keep it spoiler free so far, but Val having some issues with the US government, mentions of a potential president.
I think it's before her first scene. You could say it. She's getting impeached, which just leads to the question: we could impeach people in the Marvel Cinematic, in the post Secret Invasion, in the post Brave New World. This was an option. Is this what the Congress has been doing nonstop since 2008? Is just constantly like, did Gary Shandling's character just start a rolling impeachments, and we've just been impeaching people all the way through in the background? I laughed so hard where they're like, and the big impeachment around town is the head of the CIA. I'm like, okay. I guess we have adamantium figured out then. Cool. Great.
I very much expected it to start with President Ross when I heard that impeachment talk. But nonetheless, it leaves us wondering, as Dave's name suggests in the bottom corner here in our YouTube panel, who is the president of the MCU? But Dave, I'll throw it to you for a spoiler-free thoughts. What'd you think of Thunderbolts when you went to the theater? Did you enjoy yourself?
I did. I really enjoyed myself. I enjoyed myself in a way that after having watched Thunderbolts, I fired up my old Disney Plus and went through greatest hits of what I had considered great moments in Marvel team movies, very specifically, because I was interested in what Thunderbolts was doing compared to like the other teams we've seen in Marvel. And they're a little bit like the Guardians of the Galaxy in the sense that they probably shouldn't be a team when it starts. But I think with something like Guardians of the Galaxy 1 versus something like Thunderbolts, I think Thunderbolts manages to be a little bit better because at the end, I'm rooting for them all to like each other. I'm definitely rooting for the team to win, but I'm mostly rooting like, can't these guys all like each other? Where Guardians of the Galaxy, I felt like Groot was the only one who figured out they all needed to be together by the end of that first movie. Sort of like we need to stay together is the thing that the next 2 movies sort of really solidify. So I think Thunderbolts did a really good job at doing sort of a speedy Avengers, which the first Avengers was like Iron Man, Thor, Captain America. How are these people that are not Hulk and Spider-Man, which is the heroes everybody knew, or the X-Men, how are these people supposed to make a team we could root for? And that's what Phase 1 had to sort of answers. Thunderbolts speed runs that really fast in one movie. So I was very impressed. I was feeling a little weird for the first half of the movie because they do have to do some very quippy exposition just in case you haven't seen the various series and movies leading into this. But I really think Thunderbolts ends strong to the point that they have been telling theaters to keep the lights down until the actual movie ends. So usually they put the lights up during like the mid-credits scene or something because that's how Marvel's trained theaters. Now they're like, make them wait all to the end because I think people are going to leave Thunderbolts. I think it's going to have an excellent cinema score because you leave this movie being like, hey, that was fun. I don't know how that happened, but I had fun. Or that's how it went for me.
AF, you were one of the first of the Agents of Fandom to get to see Thunderbolts. You got to see it before Damon and I did. And I know that you liked it, but give me a little bit more. What do you think of Thunderbolts?
Yeah, so this was my most anticipated movie of the year. And like the very first time I said it, so many people was like, but Fantastic Four is releasing this year as well. And I was like everybody knows what we are more or less going to get with Fantastic Four. But I just had this gut feeling that this movie is going to add so much extra substance to the MCU moving forward. And after watching it, I guess I wasn't wrong. I feel like it delivered on every single expectation that I had. There was like a lovely blend of so many different emotions in here, like whether it was humor, whether it was grief, sadness. This movie had it all, and yeah, there's so much more to unpack later on in this episode. But yeah, like I absolutely had a great time, just like Dave said.
Julio in chat saying that he remembered 2 years ago when they first announced Thunderbolts, people were asked like, why are they making this? And I think I was one of those people, like, I'll take Marvel anything, but why this one? But I think it kind of shows that no matter what you're kind of potentially having in development, when you get yourself a good script and when you get yourself some really strong actors, you make sure you get a movie centered around them and you just make it work, even if it's not the headline team people are looking for. And we saw that with Guardians of the Galaxy. When they were making Guardians of the Galaxy movie, it was, why the hell are they doing this? We barely cared about the Avengers. We don't give a damn about Guardians of the Galaxy.
Why the hell are we doing this is Marvel's secret sauce. Like, that's delivering a movie that you think is going to be bad is why they make $1 billion. It just happened to be that like Infinity War and Endgame were good. But like before that, we were like, well, Avengers was good and Ultron shat the bed. So like, no. So like, I'm glad that we're back in this thing where it's like, I don't know what that is. I bet that's good. I would like to live in that positive headspace if at all possible.
Damon, how about you? Spoiler-free thoughts on Thunderbolts.
I went into this movie. I just pulled this up on my phone. I remember when we all did hype rankings back in the good old year of 2022. This was almost 3 years ago. Out of 12 MCU projects that were slated at the time, this movie came in at 10 on that ranking. 10.
Looking at those movies now.
Oh, I'm going through it now. It's not just movies, by the way, it was movies and TV shows.
Actually, save this. Think about it for now, but we'll get back to this at the end when we're like giving our official ratings. I'm going to want to know, of the ones you ranked on your hype rankings, where does Thunderbolts fall now on a review ranking? Where would you
talking
rank
like
it in
just a movie at that point
on your list?
Just movie?
If you feel like you're able to compare to the TV, throw it in there too. But if for you that's like, hey, that's just too different, then yeah, just movies. Okay. Either one.
Regardless, I was like, like a lot of people, they announced this, and I was like, okay, Thunderbolts, sure, right? We'll see how this works. It was also one of those where it was like about time too, because we saw we thought maybe they were doing Dark Avengers or whatever they were doing with the Val setting it up, and I still think this movie would have done wonders. Hindsight, right? This whole multiverse saga, we're going to look back with hindsight 2020. Would have this done better probably like a year or two ago if it got released? Sure. Would have this movie been better received if it was like the final movie of phase 4? Probably, right? Regardless, Since Endgame, I'd say this is my third favorite MCU movie. And I have a weird list. Like, for favorite movies compared that most other people have, it's a little out there. But this is my third favorite MCU movie, maybe my second favorite. I've only seen it once, but I enjoyed it that much. I don't cry often when I see movies. This one got me. It has so much heart. I love the heart in this movie. Florence Pugh. It was no doubt that you're a star, but by God, are you a superstar? Captivating. Can control the screen, control the audience. So good. So good. The chemistry during the promotional material for this was off the charts, and I was hoping it would show on the screen, and it did. The story itself, what they did with Sentry, fantastic. And I'll say one thing at the very, very, very end of this, just to make some people mad, but I really love what they did with Sentry. And I think they knocked it out of the park here. They really did.
I think they nailed it with Sentry as well. And Louis Pullman Sentry, Florence Pugh, and Yelena Belova, those to me were the two standout performances of the movie by a fairly wide margin. There was a lot of really great performances, but those were the two that really brought this movie up another tier to me. Dave, I want to throw it to you for Florence Pugh's performance specifically. Spoiler warning, if you have not seen Thunderbolts, hit pause, come back, join us after you have seen the movie. Florence Pugh's Yelena Belova is the lead in this film, the main protagonist. She is the emotional heart and soul. She is the comedic heart and soul. She's the action heart and soul. She's the reason this movie is what it is. What do you think of her performance?
Oh yeah, I loved it. And I do think it does provide a certain balance to somebody like Louis Pullman Sentry. And I love the Nat Hulk relationship they end up sort of having. You could see, or I think it's capable, if they keep going forward with Yelena's character, to say some things about Nat and sort of like retroactively fix some of the character stuff people weren't super happy with Whedon's interpretation of what Black Widow was supposed to be. I think we're like much closer to like the Kate Shortland version of what the Red Room experience was like. There's a lot of talk about, being traumatized child soldiers, and we get, another flashback to the Red Room that works fine for me. Whipping the hands, pretty cool. I mean, cool in a horrific way, obviously, and don't beat children's hands for not assembling guns fast enough. But I do love the anchor for it, and I am just so surprised that usually when Marvel, I'm thinking specifically of Scarlet Witch here, but like when they realized that accent was a little alienating, they pulled back on it, and they're like, Elizabeth Olsen, do what you want. Yelena goes harder into it. The emotional back and forth in this movie is between Florence Pugh and David Harbour, both doing like moose and squirrel Russian accents, like thick, overly exaggerated stuff. And it works because that's how good this movie is at focusing on the characters, when other, I think, entries in the Marvel Cinematic Universe would have been like, when's the next laser fight? When's the portal in the sky coming? This movie's like, no. It's just about these depressed people. It's about being depressed. We're going to release a film in 2025 about how looking at your phone, going to work, coming home, drinking, looking at your phone, going to work is maybe not the loop that we should all be in. Maybe we should look for heroicism in ourselves, even if that just means reaching out and saving one person. I love the Yelena plotline in this movie. And it doesn't bother me at all that some of the other team members are and also there, because I just think she's a strong enough anchor to have all these characters orbiting around her.
Yeah, this is an example to me where it's like going into the prior to ever seeing Black Widow, I really couldn't have cared less about Yelena Belova, the character. I hadn't read any Yelena comics. I didn't know anything about her. But Florence Pugh has made me so invested in this character. There's multiple people saying after this film, she should be one of the, if not the face of the MCU going forward for a while. And that's because of how incredible she has turned this That's not proper grammar. What an incredible job she has done as an actor, and how she has turned this character into somebody people really care about. AF, what stood out to you for Florence Pugh's performance, and was she also the main highlight for you?
Yeah, no, like in my review that I did, I said that both Florence and Lewis, they were the MVPs of this story for me. But I mean, from the offset on the top of that building, the way that she just dived so quickly into the grief that Yelena is basically walking around with, she personified everything that we knew she was carrying, with everything about losing Nat twice in her life, just losing so many people, being through the red room, like going through all of that sort of torment. And yeah, she just like she just did it so well, and to come into contact with all of these different characters as well, she just bounced off of everybody so easily. And it's not always an easy task to do something like that, especially with characters or actors and actresses that you haven't really shared the screen with before. So yeah, like she was my standout. She beat Lewis Pullman by a little bit. Give her the world, give her everything, make her front and center of the MCU moving forward. She is amazing.
I love the dynamic between her and Red Guardian, where we watched Black Widow, right? And we know this man was no father. They were hardly a real family, but because Yelena has had such little human connection throughout her life, you understand why she feels this deep connection to him as a father figure. And also, you feel it because of the amazing performance that she gives. Damon, any other final thoughts on Florence Pugh's performance? And then feel free to lead us into Lewis Pullman's impeccable performance as Sentry.
Like I just said, she's a superstar. She is a superstar. She is a movie star. Marvel, Disney, a whole group. So lucky to have her. So incredibly lucky to have her. And she cares about this character. You could tell she truly cares. And she definitely puts a bit of an MCU spin on Yelena. Yelena in the comics, a bit more cold. But this iteration is something that she, and the writers too, obviously, they helped make her so relatable, specifically in this movie. So many of us can relate to what she's going through with the day-to-day, a terrible cycle. You go through it, you go to work, you come home, you drink, you sleep, you wake up, repeat, right? It just nailed it. Like, love her to death. There's a reason she is leading a team. There's a reason. And there's a reason also, thankfully, if you still go to the Marvel page, she's still front and center of that, which is good. We recognize goodness. Don't screw it up like you did with Scarlet Witch, which I think they learned their lesson at least.
And I think going back to our conversation of why did Thunderbolts even exist in the first place? Because I think you had to give Florence Pugh a movie. You can't make the same mistake that they made with Scarlett Johansson and, like you said, with Elizabeth Olsen's Scarlet Witch, where you have this beloved character and they just kind of get these side roles throughout these movies. You got to put them front and center, and we're seeing that with Florence Pugh here, and
Where you straight up kill them off.
For now, we have a theory, Damon. We'll get there.
Watch our latest episode of the Comic Corner to get my full thoughts on that. Regardless, Lewis Pullman, God, I know Stephen Ewan was originally cast to be Sentry, and I'm sure he would have done a fantastic job. And yes, there are like some Invincible type jokes in there that could have been very like ha ha ha. Regardless,
as much as I would have loved Stephen Ewan in that role, after seeing the most recent season of Invincible, where, mild spoiler warning for Invincible season 3, we see a lot of different Mark Graysons, and a lot of them are very not nice people. We got a lot of evil Marks in there that we see in that episode, in that season. And so there were just so many moments where either as the Void or as Sentry, where I know even though he's an incredible actor, I would have just heard Mark Grayson Invincible variant if Steven Yeun was Sentry here.
Yeah, no, that's kind of the point I was gonna make. But I can't at this point. I cannot see anyone else other than Louis Pullman being Bob. The way he portrayed his nervousness, his depression, the way he's just terrified to hurt the people around him or to make a situation worse. Instantly sympathetic, relatable, maybe for some, but just like you just want to give him a hug from the minute he walks onto the screen for the first time. You just want to give him a hug. I love this character already. I never thought I'd be like, I love the Sentry. Because the Sentry is like a sympathetic character. Also, like the Void, a bit more of a jerk than this Void. This Void is more sad than evil. But man, they made Bob cool. But like a sympathetic, like I want to be your friend type of character. They killed it. Like he killed it. I cannot see anyone else being the Sentry. Or just Bob.
I agree. He was absolutely incredible. There were so many moments, specifically at the beginning, like right after he's awakened and they're rescuing him and trying to get out of there. There were so many moments that I found so relatable from just times where, you know, I've been diagnosed with depression, anxiety, ADHD, PTSD, all the different D's and S's and letters that they got. But there was like a specific moment where they were trying to get out of there and the troops were arriving. He was like, you know what? Like, you guys just like go, like, I'm just gonna surrender. Like, don't worry about me. I'm just gonna take the terrible option as long as you guys aren't worrying about me. And that's like the better alternative for me. And that hit home for me of just the times I've been at my lowest where you just want to make yourself small and invisible so that it's easier to almost like just dissociate and be outside of the world into in the void where you're not kind of in other people's streams of consciousness, because if they're worrying about you, that means you gotta take into consideration their feelings, and you can't even figure out your own right now. So it's just better if everyone leaves you alone. And that felt really relatable to me, and the performance was just so incredible. Dave, what do you think of Louis Pullman's performance?
Oh, I really liked it. I like the transformation to this version of the Sentry, which reads a lot more like, what if you accidentally gave the new super soldier serum to a ex-meth addict chicken dressed sign spinner? And it is like sort of the super soldier serum brought out the best in Steve Rogers, but it was something that was always in Steve Rogers. And I think that's what's great about this version of the Sentry and the Void, is it's not something like he's an old formula hero that everybody was forced to forget because of magic that is like home to like a maybe cosmic being. It is, you amplified the wrong person, and now how are you going to deal with that? And that is infinitely more interesting. And I like where the movie leaves him, where we haven't done the last shot of the Incredible Hulk in 2008 where he opens his eyes and they're green on the inside. Like, we don't know if Sentry is ever going to have full control over the Void, and what that means in terms of going forward. Is this a member of the team, or is it somebody that the team sort of like needs to protect, who's going to take more of a guy in the chair position? I'm very interested in the Sentry because I think it could have been very one-dimensional, very depressed Superman, but they managed to find some different layers to that by altering his backstory. And ultimately, by exploring Sentry's backstory, you get to explore the backstory of all these people, and that's the engine that makes the movie run. If it was cosmic being latches on to depressed Superman, then we would have had a completely different climax. And I think the strength of Thunderbolts is exactly when you think they're going to start shooting lasers at a shadow or something, they walk into it and they have a personal conversation. And that's sort of like the great thing about Thunderbolts.
I'm going to say it now since you just brought it up. I was going to say this at the very end, but clip it, chat. Marvel just did evil Superman better than Zack Snyder ever wished he could.
Haha.
I mean, we can clip it, but that'll get us some fun attacks that you don't have to deal with because you're not on social media anymore. So yeah, easy to hide behind the screen. Attack us on YouTube, everybody. Follow us on socials, but attack us on YouTube. And I agree. Not only did it's better than it's better than the DC universe has yet. Like we've seen it in Invincible top tier, we've seen it in The Boys top tier, and now we're seeing it in the MCU top tier. AF, any final thoughts on Lewis Pullman as the Sentry, the Void, what the performance meant to you? And then I also want to know who outside of Florence Pugh and Lewis Pullman stood out to you as kind of like one of the top performances in the film.
Yeah, so just echoing everything you guys said thus far about Lewis Pullman. But I mean, this guy was just so endearing to me from the offset. He's sort of tragic past, down on his luck type of guy, and he is just looking for a brand new start, a new lease on life, and he takes the first thing that comes his way. And at the end of it all, he just wants to be seen. He wants to be liked. That's another relatable part of that, because don't we all just want to be accepted? We all want our friends to see us. We all just want to be seen at the end of it all. And he does that also well. His scenes with Florence are amazing, because I think in her you find somebody that he can be himself with, that he's actually feels okay to be around. But yeah, like 10 out of 10 performance from Lewis Pullman as well. If we're looking at other characters, Hannah John Kamen, I didn't think was going to be an important part of the story, but she held her own. I was pleasantly surprised with her performance. And then just to add some South Asian rep to this, we have our Songbird. It wasn't mentioned in the story, but we saw that necklace. We saw Mel wearing that necklace, and Geraldine Viswanathan, I cannot wait to see more of you in the MCU.
You stole mine. Those were literally the two that I wanted to bring up, and I'll add, I guess, a little bit of qualms with it, because I thought both of them gave wonderful performances, and I felt the script left me wanting a little bit more with both of their characters. I thought there was more to explore with Ghost about what she's been up to, besides just working for Val, and since the time we last saw her in Ant-Man and the Wasp, or just more dialogue and exposition from her. And then the same thing for Mel. Like, I thought I didn't really care about this character going in, but the performance got me so invested because I just thought she was really good. So I can't wait to see more. I can't wait to see how and if she develops into Songbird and what her role might be when we see this Thunderbolts team next, because we saw her kind of souring on working for Val throughout this film. There's a lot of good in her, and she wasn't just a lot of bad too, like everybody else in this movie, but a lot of good in her as well, a good heart, despite some not great decision making at times. But I think she just turned this into a character that makes me hope she's a hero that we see more of going forward. And if she's no longer wanting to work for Val, Yelena says to Val right towards the end of this, "We own you now, Valentina." And with that, I think maybe we see Songbird sliding into that Avengers team and working directly with them as opposed to Val. Damon, who else for you was a standout performance in this film?
I mean, personally, I'd love to see Songbird. I mean, we just had Mark's comment up that said too many experimental medical procedures in the MCU. You don't want to know how Songbird becomes Songbird, then. That's another one that just kind of happens. But I think I really enjoyed David Harbour as Red Guardian. Humor, a little much at times, but still very fun. My hottest take with this movie, and I love Sebastian Stan. I love Sebastian Stan as Bucky. I don't think this movie needed him. I don't think this team needed him. Because he was leader for their first time invading not Avengers Tower. It didn't work out very well for him. And then Yelena took over after that. So, and now at the end of the movie, he's just on this team while maybe not being senator anymore. I don't know. But I just don't think this movie needed him. So I would like for Songbird to come in for at least one of these 3 super soldiers on this team, because I am still flabbergasted that Red Guardian lived by the end of this movie. I thought if there was one character that was guaranteed to die, it was going to be him, because you need one that it's that would just kind of everyone was yeah, he's the cheerleader rah guy, and then he goes Coulson style, and it's I thought he was going to be the Coulson.
How have we not spoken about the one character that I think all of us knew was going to fight
17 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I clocked at. I may be off by a few minutes, but I clocked it at 17.
R.I.P. Taskmaster. I'm happy we got to hear you talk. I was excited. We might have gotten a little bit of my theory with the reason she was hiding isn't because she's dying right away. It's because she's going to be a shit-talking Taskmaster like he is in comics and cartoons and video games. Nope.
Bang.
Nope. And not only was she gone so quick, but they brushed past it so quick. Ghost shoots her in the head, and Yelena was like, oh shit, I knew her. And that was basically the end of it.
And then John Walker's stealing her stuff.
John Walker stealing her stuff. I get that they gave John Walker some kind of sympathetic, sad moments that made him a little, relatable, and you want to cheer for him. I'm still team fucked John Walker. If he dies at the beginning of Doomsday, I'll cheer in the theater.
But regardless, Russell does such an amazing job. Why Russell does such an amazing job with him. It's his job to be a dickhead.
Yes.
And he nailed it.
Absolutely. 100%. Dave, how about you? Who was a standout character among the cast?
I mean, I was going to give it to Wyatt Russell only because Wyatt Russell auditioned to be Steve Rogers in 2009, and he just stuck around, and they kept being like, well, maybe he could be Bucky, and then they found Sebastian Stan. They're like, all right, well, we'll find something for you, and they did, and finally he gets to play it in the movies. So Wyatt Russell, just taking whatever they'll give him, and I think doing the most that he can with it, honestly. But if you're just gonna have a depressed, I used to be roided out on super soldier serum, but I got better by yelling at my wife. Yeah, sure. Wyatt Russell does the best possible way. I'm not super psyched about telephone wife as a trope. Even Hawkeye's wife got to show up in person, but I understand why it's here. I feel like there was a version of this movie where there was Taskmaster and Ghost developing a relationship, and there wasn't that much Bucky until the end. And then somewhere, whether it be casting problems, whether it be, oh, we need some more Bucky, they sort of switched it. But Taskmaster, in a world where they didn't reveal Taskmaster as part of the team when they revealed this movie existed at all, that would have been a cameo that people would have been laughing at. Taskmaster shows up, boom, they steal her stuff. That's the end of that. We would have been like, oh shit. We would have had a Thunderbolts movie that was pitched with 5 people, and then we show up and Taskmaster's there. What the hell's going on? that I think would have played like a little bit better than this whole thing that we had to do where it's like, she's part of the team, she's part of the team. By the time we got to the final trailer, she just wasn't in it at all. And it was like, okay, I guess we've given up on it because this movie, again, is hiding a title. But that I think they think that was the only secret they could get away with.
I agree with you 100%. I want to push back on, I kind of forgot to bring it up earlier, on one thing, Damon, you said earlier about Bucky's role in this movie. Mm-hmm. And I think where he needed to be there was he was the only former loser who's not a loser anymore. And they needed that one to kind of be able to pull people out of like, guys, I know where you're coming from. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. You just got to start going in the right direction. And even though he never really was, a loser, he was tortured, brainwashed, forced to do a bunch of things he didn't want to do after being a hero. He felt like he was a loser. And so he knew that place that they were in. And so I feel like he had to be the one to kind of start pointing, get them on the right direction so that Yelena can lead that team.
I also want to point out that Red Guardian does have an arc. He's a full capitalist at the end. He has the branded suit. He wants to be on the Wheaties box. This is a guy who spent the majority of his life being the hero of communism. Like he does his reversal. He gets over his depression. Like all he wants to do is be like rich and famous, and he gets that, and also gets to protect little girl from falling concrete. That's an arc to me.
What a moment that was.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, when he saves her and then boom, she's gone.
I was like, oh, this movie's more intense than I thought when it just Hiroshima shadowed a little girl, but she's okay. She gets better.
I'm a psychopath because I coped with that moment by laughing.
I was just like, oh, like that to me was like one of the most like shocking moments of the film. That and then just Taskmaster getting shot in the head, and we all knew she was gonna die, and it still took me by surprise just how quick and ridiculous it all felt. The team dynamic is really what held this movie together, and I think if there may have been like if I'm pulling points away from this, the overarching story felt a little bit weak for me. But having said that, it didn't matter as much because it wasn't the focal point. The focal point was the relationships and the chemistry between these characters. Talk to me about the team dynamic of the Thunderbolts AF from the beginning where they all hate each other and are trying to kill each other till the end where they're living together as, I mean, there's no sense. We gave a spoiler warning as the new Avengers, which we'll talk about later. What do you think of their dynamic?
I thought it was fun to kind of go on this journey with all of these guys. I've been in situations myself where you are put in, for example, school projects, and the people that you paired with are absolute no-shows. These people do the bare minimum. They don't really contribute much, but the more you work together, you sort of like build up this sort of team chemistry with them. And at the end of it all, everybody like sort of pulls their weight. And that's one of the things that like just like clicked in my head when I was watching this movie. I'm like, okay, so they trying to like relate to everybody who's watching the movie, and it was fun to just like see them sort of gradually go through this journey, go through all of these emotions with each other, whether they hate each other, whether they love each other. Like Yelena and Red Guardian, we see them working through their sort of relationship together. We see Bucky and John Walker, they have their history from Falcon and the Winter Soldier as well. So there's a lot of like history within this team in like certain sectors. So yeah, I enjoyed all of that. The part that I enjoyed the most was just the fact that like Florence Pugh is just like having these interactions with every single one of them. And even though there's a lot of them that she hasn't really interacted with before or shared the screen time with before, she just does it in such an amazing manner that it's just a natural thing, and it's something that you want more of.
Damon, what do you think of the overall antagonists? I don't want to say villains, because while Val is a villain, Sentry's not really a villain because he's not in control of his actions as the Void. What did you think of the overall antagonist storyline throughout this? I thought the performances as Sentry and the way they handled how they beat him was pretty good, because there was there was absolutely no way they could have taken him down. And that's probably my biggest qualm of Deadpool and Wolverine, is we have this cool badass villain who just loses from frying herself in a machine.
She put her hands in the matter antimatter rippers all by herself.
What's the choice?
That part fell flat for me, but this, I really liked the way that Yelena talking him down with the group was the way that they ultimately saved the day. The Val stuff, there were moments to me that hit really hard and were really cool. And there were others that, while I thought Julia Louis-Dreyfus's performance was great, left me wanting more with the character.
The Val stuff was fine, whatever. To me, I don't really care. And in the end, it's not like a quote-unquote villain that we're never going to see again, because she's still around. And I find that more interesting going forward. Like, what's kind of like going to be her role? Is she just going to be like a things went wrong, hey, go out PR lady type of thing? Because I think that's hilarious. And that's why, like, the whole Val stuff, maybe if that plot, the subplot, whatever, like, didn't really like do anything for me, I think it's fine because of that, because she's still going to be around. It's not like we're never going to see her again. Like 98% of other Marvel villains that just like, well, we'll never see them again. Darben, goodbye. You know, like stuff like that. The real villain, obviously, it's depression, it's loneliness, it's all of that. And that story is just so well done. There's so many times in the movie when after someone comes out of the void before he becomes the void, where like Yelena looked at John, was just like, are you okay? And they all just said every time, I'm fine. When you're not, right? That's the through line throughout this entire movie. And I think we already discussed that, but that's like in reality, like the true villain is that dark side of yourself that can take over. And that's that hit. I think they did that very, very well. Also, didn't bring this up yet, but I do think it's kind of funny how like cocaine was completely off limits in Deadpool and Wolverine, but we clearly had some sort of drug in Daredevil that they were taking, and here we just straight up said, I'm on meth.
Yeah.
Approved.
Yeah, meth chicken, that's the Fortnite skin I need from Thunderbolts. Give me that meth chicken. That'll really beat the chicken jockey plague that's taking over our theaters these days if we meth chicken it out. I want to step up a little bit and say I actually do like Julia Louis-Dreyfus's choices here from the perspective of she just needs to be the female Nick Fury. Very specifically, it would be very easy for a portrayal of Val to be afraid at several points of this movie, and Julia Louis-Dreyfus chooses not to play it that way. The way that Samuel L. Jackson's portrayal of Nick Fury is like he has it all under control, even though we know he didn't always, but he portrays that sort of exterior. I think we have that with Val and how Julia Louis-Dreyfus is playing her, where several times in the movie she has to play a way that we recognize she's annoyed, but she has to be playing outwards towards like Senator Wendell Pierce or whatever his character name is, or all these different people. And that's a tough acting gig ultimately, especially when she is like sort of the person who just created an evil organization that funded things. I also think it's not great to have OxCorp and OzCorp in the same cinematic universe. It works fine if you're reading it on the comic book page, but at least when she first was like, I've divested from OxCorp, I'm like, you've divested from what now? And then they said it a couple more times. I'm like, oh, right, from the comics that I think was actually in a Thunderbolt story once. So that made like a little bit more sense. But I do think she's doing a good job here, considering she has to assemble the Avengers, but from an antagonistic standpoint this time. So it's kind of a thankless job, but I think she does it pretty well.
I think what I actually find really interesting with Val is she very clearly doesn't have everything under control, kind of like how Nick Fury portrays, but she is so excellent at twisting a situation to make it play out into her favor. And I think that is her biggest difference, because we've seen scenes where she's like, they said, we're going to fully investigate you. And she's like, I welcome that. And then they just like bang cut to her, just be like, well, shit.
Time to part everything then.
Yeah, so you can see she
Pulling
doesn't
a
really
bluff.
have things under control,
Yeah.
but she knows how to play things off, how to maneuver, how to quickly adjust. And I think that is her strength as a character. And I hope next time we see her, they kind of like dig a little deeper into that. Specifically, like we had that one kind of like flashback scene with like her trauma.
She got her
as a
dad
kid,
killed.
Yeah.
which I was like, oh no.
I just thought like, oh, I guess we'll come back to this, and then they didn't. I'm like,
Yeah, and
oh,
then they didn't.
okay.
And I was like, oh, okay. I wish we got a little bit more with that, and maybe we will down the line. But it was just kind of like we got her trauma, and I was like, oh no, and then we just like never really went back to it.
Italian fascists, maybe. I'm unclear
Mob,
about
family, mafia type of thing.
Yeah, I'm unclear exactly what happened in that. But
Disappointed the family.
that was interesting. I had completely forgotten about that until you brought it up, which doesn't say anything ultimately, I guess. But yeah, more Val would be good. I want to see more Val. I can't wait to see what her position is with this new team, especially where they get all the money for all that stuff, right? I mean, I get, is the government paying for it? Does OxCorp now fund the Avengers?
But also she also wants to get in the good books of everybody, of the public. She is holding this gala for the Avengers, and we have all of the Shitari stuff, Loki scepters, all of these Iron Man, Captain America posters and stuff like that around the gala. So she's trying to get back in the good books. She's trying to get in the good graces of everybody, so everybody can have her back. And I mean, it goes back to what I said earlier. Like, I feel like her character as well, she just wants to be seen. She just wants to be accepted. And even though her methods may be incorrect, she's still trying to do what she thinks is the correct thing or the right thing in her mind.
Yeah. Righteousness without power is just an opinion, as she says.
Really, really great line. Kind of gives you a window into Val's ideals as a leader, a politician, and I thought that was really, really strong. And if you do want to see more Val, you can check out my interview with Julia Louis-Dreyfus, dropping tonight after this podcast. The reason it's not out yet is I had to write up a little exclusive article. I asked her, Julia, we have Val and Nick Fury with this history in comics. Do you think they have any type of history in the MCU as well? And so she gave me her answer there. Stay tuned. It will.
She's like,
shortly.
well, you see, the Watcher loses his eye and Nick Fury recovers it, therefore linking our characters in the past in ways that we didn't even. I just think it'd be funny if Julia Louis-Dreyfus was really deep into Marvel Comics lore.
She did know that they had a romantic relationship in comics, so she has fully dove, like, not fully, but she has dove into Val's comic lore.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And so you were like, you've already been through your Avengers Doomsday press classes, right? And she was like, oh, right. She's the leader of that team. This team's in Doomsday. Anyway, can't wait to see Val again.
AF, what did you think about the antagonists in this one, Val and Sentry, their role in the story? And also, I want to just I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I will kind of give it open, leave the floor open for once AF's done his thoughts there too. If anyone really wants to dive into how the themes of mental health and self-worth in this movie affected them, because I think there's a lot of us who really struggle with mental health at times, and this movie did a very good job of putting real life struggles into kind of a supernatural movie.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Damon with what he said, that basically the sort of big bad for this movie was depression. It was that sort of darkness within that we are all all fighting. And this isn't Marvel's first rodeo with mental health. They've done the Fat Thor thing. They've done things in Moon Knight with the split personalities. But I think they nailed this one so nicely that I don't think that they could have done it better. It was so relatable because at the end of it all, we are all battling through our demons. We are all like looking for some sort of out. Like we get consumed by things so quickly, and just to have that sort of light at the end of the tunnel in this storyline gives us all some hope of how we can try to find ways out of whatever rut we find ourselves in.
Very, very well said. Moving on to, I guess, really just as a whole, Damon, I'll throw it to you. Is there any other kind of final thoughts on the pre-credits of Thunderbolts before we move into the post-credits and what they mean for the future of the MCU?
What could that mean? I guess we'll get into it. I just really enjoyed this movie. I can see myself, because we've had a lot of movies of recent that are very good movies. And I'm talking about like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I'm talking Black Panther Wakanda Forever. That are excellent movies, but are also extraordinarily depressing. Like, I do not find myself going back to like rewatching Wakanda Forever, just be like, yeah, that one, because of the real world implications from that. But also the movie's just really sad. And same thing with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Like, there's just moments in that movie that are just so incredibly sad. This movie deals with themes of grief, of loss. But for whatever reason, I can see myself rewatching this way more frequently. I find this movie more enjoyable, and maybe it's because it's a relatable thing and it's more of self-worth, depression, instead of like for other people. I know it is with like Yelena and her sister, but a lot of it is just like it's about you. So I really enjoyed this movie. I think they nailed the theme. It had a lot of humor in it. Most of it landed. I'd say most of it landed. It was just good. It was a good movie. Now, this does not mean, I see a lot of people saying, Marvel's back. They took mature themes and this, and they took itself seriously for once. And sure, they had recently, but sure. That still doesn't mean like, it's still comic book movies. I still enjoy my goofy movies. A goofy movie too, but I still enjoy like my silly comic book movies. I love the Marvels. That's a fun movie. Yeah. I love Doctor Strange's Multiverse of Madness because it's like a weird, fun horror sci-fi movie. And there's room for all of this in this, cinematic universe. And I just really enjoyed it. I think there's room for everything here. And we're going to see a lot of like, it's back, it's not back, it's over, it's back. We've been talking about that for years. You and I both agree it's never gone away. Some projects have always been better than others. There's just a little bit more criticism to it, especially since you have that quote unquote endpoint at some point. But I really liked it, man. I really did. I'm really happy I did.
I'm with you, team. They never left, because since Endgame, we've had Shang-Chi, we've had Wakanda Forever, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Spider-Man No Way Home, Thunderbolts, and that's not even looking at the television side of things. So yeah, I'm very much pro they never left. We've had multiple not great projects throughout the MCU. And yes, there's going to be some Quantumanias and Love and Thunders. You have the Marvels and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, where they're not everybody's cup of tea, but some people really love them because they got flaws, but they're very fun movies. And so Thunderbolts, I agree with you 100%. They have very comparable to Wakanda Forever and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 in terms of exploring uncomfortable themes, and also in terms of the quality, I think they're very comparable between those three films. But I do think this has more rewatchability than both of them. And the one kind of quick little shot at Marvel Studios, what this movie made me upset about is how little Young Avengers stuff we've had, because it showed to me how quickly, if you want to, you can do a good job of shoehorning a team together and providing a movie that works as it's no one's individual origin, but it's their team origin. You don't need a ton of setup. You can just throw them together. And it's made me upset we don't have a Young Avengers or a television show or a movie yet.
Absolutely.
And it does kind of make, like, you and I have this theory and this hope that maybe there will be a movie between Doomsday and Secret Wars that is actually a Young Avengers movie, where Ghost Agatha is leading the Young Avengers to find Wanda Maximoff because she's the only one who can stop Doctor Doom. It would be a dream come true.
We have to get that payoff for the post-credit scene or the ending of the Marvels, where
Gotta
Kamala
find Tommy
is,
first.
Yeah, at the moment, my headcanon is Kamala, Kate Bishop, and Cassie Lang. They are just doing their own thing.
They're currently in town. That's got to be why.
Stay as far away from New York as possible, please.
They're just doing their own thing at the moment, and then I feel like we'll probably get a bit of a recap whenever whether it's a film or a TV show, we'll get some recap about like how they got to that point and what they've been doing all this time.
I want to, before we actually talk about post-credit, I want to get all three of you your rating for this film in two senses. 1, out of 10, what would you give Thunderbolts? And 2, I don't need your exact spot of where it fits in your MCU movie ranking. You know, that's tough. After watching it for the first time, it's tough to figure out exactly where it fits in a list of so many movies. But tell me where it would fit. What other Marvel movies does this film compare to you in terms of quality and enjoyment? AF, go to you first.
Yeah, so my rating is 8.5. A very strong 8.5, and then it's going to be tough to give a ranking for this, but I think it's top 5 MCU for me, and it's probably the best since Endgame, in my opinion.
I like it. Dave, how about you?
I'll stick with AF. 8.5 sounds good to me. I will save my 10s for the Avengers movie that blows my dick off hopefully next year. We'll save it for that. But in terms of like rating it, I've been trying to just keep the post Endgame ratings in my mind, because everything pre Endgame, I've had know way too much about them. It's kind of hard to sort of compare those things. But this is my number 2 in the post Endgame, and it is really close, but just doesn't quite beat Shang-Chi for me yet, because I watched that movie a lot. I think the first half of that movie is super fun, and the second half gets a little CG goopy, but in a way I really enjoy. Thunderbolts has the capability of really doing that, because we've been talking about it, but one of the cool things about Thunderbolts is comparison to, I don't know, the past 5 or 6, and basically everything since 2020 is Disney invested a lot in a whole bunch of CG artists that they were operating all around the globe, and it's stuff like the Volume over at like Lucasfilm. Thunderbolts has so much that's on real sets, and it's choreographed hand-to-hand combat by Heidi Moneymaker, the stunt double for Black Widow during Phase 1 and 2. And so it's like this movie feels slightly more real, like Shang-Chi does in that first half. So I really sort of value, in a world for superheroes, how can you make like combat super cool? And it's like maybe 20 minutes into this movie where Taskmaster bounces her shield to like block a shot at her knees and then block a shot like up at her chest. And I'm like, okay, this movie knows what it's doing. And then at the end, you get that like Florence Pugh spin through the mindscape. I love the stunts in this movie. I love the action in this movie. I love the characters in this movie, which means it's going to be a very high, because even if I go back and watch things like the other Avengers movies after this, they're all held together by our faith in the characters. Like that first Captain America movie, or that first Avengers movie, has a bunch of Whedonisms that are now really standing out like a sore thumb to me in terms of how they shorthand and insult each other. The Captain America suit is horrible. It's tight, it's bright blue, it's weird. The Hulk, they're just starting to get the Hulk to look right, but it's like this very careful balancing act. And Thunderbolts does the same thing. It's just we're all a little bit more wary because we've seen this magic trick before. But just because we've seen it before doesn't mean it still isn't flawlessly pulled off. So Thunderbolts, I think, is going to rate really high, even if it doesn't end up beating Shang-Chi for me quite yet.
I'll stick on the 8.5 train. It is my second favorite movie of 2025 so far. Sinners is number 1 for me, Thunderbolts 2, and the surprise companion coming in at number 3 so far. I do fully expect Fantastic Four and Superman to knock that one down, though, and then it'll be a hard top 4 for me. Having said that, 8.5 I think fits. I would say in terms of post-Endgame stuff, in terms of quality, it's right in line with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and Wakanda Forever. In terms of enjoyment, it probably falls around Shang-Chi for me, but a little bit behind. And then quite a bit behind Spider-Man No Way Home. I would say, though, that this is a better movie than Spider-Man No Way Home, but I like Spider-Man No Way Home a lot better because of what that character and these different versions of that character mean to me. And so that's kind of where I would put it. The thing I appreciate the most about this movie is that not all of them, but a large portion of the recent Marvel movies to me feel overcooked. And what I mean by that is they have all of the ingredients. I think even Thor Love and Thunder, I think, had all the ingredients for a really great movie, especially the Marvels. I feel this way about Captain America Brave New World. I feel this way about, but they just over-edited the shit out of it. They cut out too many important scenes. They're transitioning from scene to scene so quick. And what this movie does so incredibly well is it allows us to spend time with the characters we really like. And even if we don't like some of the characters, the acting performances are good enough that it's still compelling. And you just give us these compelling characters, put them in a room together, and let them be and exist. And it's really great. And I think this movie did that very well. And a lot of the other Marvel movies, like the Marvels, Captain America, Brave New World, even Thor Love and Thunder, had a lot of potential to be even better than they were, but just got too over-edited and too stitched together. Damon, overall rating for Thunderbolts.
Man, I don't want to say 8.5 too, but it's such a good number. I'll say 8.49.
All right.
What a guy. What a guy.
But I think you liked it more than I did, so maybe I'll go 8.49, you go 8.5.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
I was just to reiterate some of the points. It's a good movie. I really enjoyed it. One thing I will say, it's just to bounce off of something you said, is the importance of team movies and the MCU specifically. We will look back at the multiverse saga in hindsight and I will easily say, if we can go back and change anything, this should have been the last movie of Phase 4, right? Because the importance of these team movies is that they piece things together throughout the phases, throughout the sagas, to make it feel a little bit cohesive, and that's what we've really been missing. This has been able to piece together so many things, and to tee you up, set us up with something and a couple things down the line.
Damon, we've been not begging, but politely pleading for the Marvel Cinematic Universe to go back to post-credit scenes that lead directly into the next project. And if not the very next project, one of the next 2 or 3. Not set up a potential sequel for that character, that may or may not come 5-10 years down the line, but the next project to get us excited for it and how this story is going to weave together.
It gives you that through line.
With this post-credit scene, the mid-credit scene, we got the fun, goofy moment with the Wheaties with Red Guardian. And then the post-credit scene, we're setting Avengers Doomsday directly up with the new Avengers at Avengers Tower. They got their new outfits. Bucky Barnes is looking hot as ever. He reveals that him and Sam not have had a falling out, but he tried to have a conversation with Sam about this whole Avengers thing. And even though and Bucky respects that Sam's got the shield and technically as Captain America has the right to assemble the Avengers, but the government calls them the Avengers. It's straight setting up two different Avengers teams to lead us into Doomsday. And another one of those teams that's going to be heavily featured in Avengers Doomsday is the Fantastic Four. We get their multi-dimensional shuttle appearing in space. We get the theme, and this post-credit scene was spoiled for me because for some reason, not by social media.
No, are you going to say because you actually read the credits for the first time in your life?
The credits.
Yeah. They're like, and the theme by
Fantastic Four score in the credits, and I'm sitting there thinking, I didn't see that in this movie. Yeah. So I knew Fantastic Four showing up in the credits in some capacity. My biggest thoughts from this is that it pretty much hammers home that the Fantastic Four will either A, lose to Galactus, or B, and I think this is more likely, beat Galactus, but have an incursion within their universe, and they have to escape to ours. AF, I'm throwing it to you first. What do you think of this post-credit scene? Do you have any theories stemming from it?
This is the MCU's longest post-credit scene to date in history. It's clocked in, I think, 2 minutes 57 seconds, if I'm not mistaken. And I think they managed to fit quite a bit in there that adds substance, like you guys said, to not necessarily to the next movie, but to the future of the MCU moving forward. Just like there's so much fun in it as well. We have Red Guardian coming in with his Avengers with a Z at the end, his merch that he wants everybody to wear. We have Sam Wilson copywriting the Avengers name. So yeah, that was fun. Could we have a mini civil war on the horizon with these two teams? That could be fun. I don't know how they'd fit that in. But yeah, I think it was well done. I think they managed to nail everything that needs to be done for the next movie, for Fantastic Four, and then for Doomsday that's arriving next year. So yeah, I quite enjoyed it.
Dave, how about you? Thoughts on the post-credit scene, and did it stem any theories going into Avengers Doomsday for you?
Oh, did it stem any theories? I think it's interesting that you said the Fantastic Four are coming back from their universe. I'm not sure that's where they're coming from, but that's not in this movie. I was very psyched because the last time I talked to you guys,
is that a theory or a leak? Because if it's a theory, I want to know more.
I'll just put that there. You guys, if you want to Google what I'm saying, that's fine too. Maybe there are other people who've had these opinions. I'm not getting myself in trouble. That's what I'll say. It's either out there or I made it up. You decide. I had a great time. I was shitting myself at the end of this movie because I believe the last time we talked, I'm like, this is an Avengers movie. They're calling Thunderbolts, and I don't know why. I now know why. They're gonna change the title in like 2 weeks to get the people who didn't see it the first 2 weekends to be like, oh, an Avengers movie's out, and I didn't hear about it. It's like a surprise Avengers movie. So that makes sense. It does put my ass on the line a little bit because as far back as the book tour, I'm like, Marvel will really be cooked when a movie with Avengers in its title comes out and bombs. So this can't bomb, or I'm going to look like an asshole. I think they're the left Avengers because the arrow in the A points to the left instead of the right, as it always has in the MCU. So they're the new left Avengers. I feel like Sam could take the arrow pointing to the right A, and maybe they could just be fine. I'm very interested in why specifically this was 14 months later. It's a very specific title at the beginning of this post-credit scene. I get it; they're supposed to have established themselves, but also that means other shit happened in the past 14 months. And at least if I'm doing some light math off of Endgame, I think that puts it in 2029. So again, who's president in the MCU? That's my big question at the end of the post-credit scene. Who is dealing with this space crisis with maybe Sam Wilson's Avengers, who I assume, at least with Thor, have more access to people who could live in space? Where's the president?
Just before Damon speaks, the TJ, you mentioned Bucky's new uniform, so that's actually based on the Thunderbolts run from last year by Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly. It was a 4-issue run, if I'm not mistaken. Damon, you can correct me. But yeah, that was literally ripped from the comics, exactly the same carbon copy uniform.
And you can find TJ, aka Fat Thor's interview with Jackson and Colin up on the Agents Fandom YouTube page. And he will be talking. There's one with Jackson. I'm not sure if he's had one with Colin already, but
it's always with both.
Always with both. And so you can check the one out already up there. And there will be another one coming soon with the two of them as well. So stay tuned for that. Damon, thoughts on the post-credit scene and any theories that stemmed?
Sam Wilson is assembling his West Coast Avengers. Let's think about who's on that team that we already know. Shang-Chi, San Francisco-based. Ant-Man, San Francisco-based. You know who also is San Francisco, LA-based that should also be on that team? I feel like they need a Hulk. Let's throw She-Hulk on that team too. Let's get some people mad.
I like that.
Right? Let's keep going. So I really feel like we're gonna have two Avengers team. We're gonna have a West Coast team because they kind of need one, and I feel like that'll be fun. And then we'll have our chaotic new Avengers team over here on the East Coast that's just, dealing with Mayor Fisk of it all, which I don't even think we've brought up yet. But that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, you already said it. I think they're coming back from their universe after losing to Galactus because they need a place to go to. That was my interpretation. I've seen other people suggest that maybe they're not even on that ship and only Franklin Richards is on that ship. And if that's the case, I'm calling him Richard Kent.
Call Ghost Agatha. We need a babysitter.
There's a baby here, and it landed in Kansas.
So my next question for all of you is going to be who will be on Sam Wilson's Avengers team. And Damon, I think you brought up a really good point that making it Shang-Chi, She-Hulk, Ant-Man as your main team, and Shuri and M'Baku even maybe are members, but not directly there with them all the time. Thor is a member, but not directly with them all the time. Captain Marvel's a member, but she's off looking for Monica right now throughout space and time. But I really like the idea that it's a West Coast Avengers with those players that we already know are sitting there on the West Coast. Dave, who do you think Sam's Avengers team will consist of?
Oh, I mean, I love the idea of a West Coast Avengers. I do think there is a non-zero chance of Avengers Secret Wars Jeff debut. Not joking at all.
Jeff,
current West Coast Avenger Jeff. Or
the land shark.
The land shark, yes.
I will lose my fucking mind.
I think a year and a half ago, I said the break in case of emergency glass was the original X-Men. Obviously, that glass has been broken for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now I think it's something like Jeff. That is just like, what are you going to do to bring new people into these Avengers movies that are marketed on here comes everybody you've seen for the past 20 years. There were people who were born in 2008 who will watch these new Avengers movies. They will like Jeff. So I think like anything that gets weird from that side, I would love to see some West Coast Avengers love. Like I think West Coast Avengers, maybe they don't have Jeff anymore, but they do have multiple Ultrons. So if we do have Vision Quest and Jocasta coming between here and there, maybe we get a nice Ultron. I don't even know which color of the Ultrons is the good Ultrons these days, but we have a room for a lot of weird capabilities. If they do have a team,
Wonder Man,
Wonder Man 100% is going to be on that team. Yes, he's on the West Coast. His show will be up, and then I think you jerry rig Riri into somewhere, either if she's part of an Avengers team or if she's part of a Wakanda team.
Riri to the Young Avengers team alongside Vision, because Vision will also be on the West Coast Avengers because he's going to be hanging out somewhere on the West Coast starting his new family.
He is a West Coast Avengers classic too. That makes sense.
I would love it if Sam Wilson's just mad that he's the West Coast Avengers, but he's like not from the West Coast and everybody else is. He's like,
and that's why he's trying to get the Avengers name back.
It's like they trademarked the new Avengers, so now I just have to be the West Coast Avengers. Boo. I mean, or they could make them the Mighty Avengers. There's a whole bunch of Avengers teams names you could choose from, but I do love the West Coast Avengers, and I also love the idea that we burn through as much as we can because there's a hard reset coming. There's a hard reset to this universe coming. So that's why like Taskmaster, that's sad, but also that's fine. That's why I'm like sort of should be concerned with power creep with Sentry existing in this universe alongside Gaia. But you know, that's fine. The universe is going to be rebooted at some point.
Gaia's not in the universe.
Invasion
never happened, Dave. That's not a real MCU project.
No, this is exactly what's going to happen with Gaia. We're going to give Gaia the Hulk treatment in Infinity War. Gaia will show up when Doom shows up, and Doom will just handle that rather quickly.
That's great. You know, I would love that. I am interested in, do you guys think Sentry is powerful enough to take the multiple man position in the Secret Wars storyline?
Yes.
Molecule Man. Thank you.
TJ and I have been theorizing for a long time who's going to be in that role. For the longest time, we both thought it was going to be the Scarlet Witch.
Or even
after everything going on with the Scarlet Witch right now, I don't even know.
Billy?
What? With
Or
Billy?
even potentially Billy. Less likely,
No.
but potentially.
No. Because Billy is going to be... We already have our idea, man. We can't...
I know, but I'm saying as a backup if our idea fails.
No, Sentry.
I mean,
battery.
I like that idea, only because I'm really wary how we get there now that they've also done like this weird anchor being thing in Deadpool and Wolverine, which is sort of counterintuitive to how I understood the multiverse. But all this to say, Thunderbolts
makes absolutely no sense.
Thunderbolts, what a movie to like have this whole like Earth-based New York movie, and then the post-credits scene, they're like, the Fantastic Four are here. But exactly what David was saying, the quicker these post-credit scene could be alluding to the absolutely next project is what the chain that allows these movies to be successful. Because the whole like thesis by the Marvel Cinematic Universe monetarily is each movie is a sequel to itself, and each sequel does better than the original. So if you don't have that compounding, it's not worth crap. It doesn't matter if Harry Styles shows up at the end of your movie if your sequel doesn't have Harry Styles in it. So I think this is incredibly smart. I am wondering if we're ever going to see what happens in that 14 months we skip over. Maybe they elect a new president. That'd be nice.
I agree with you. It feels very pointed and very like there's a reason it's 14. But then I also remember the however many years later at the beginning of Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah, that was wrong.
Yeah, maybe
that's Sony's fault.
When is Doomsday supposed to come out? July next year?
Yeah.
Well, that's why it's 14 months.
There we go.
There you go.
Well, but they're ahead of us in time. Okay, it doesn't matter. You're right. Because the average Marvel fan doesn't know that they're ahead of us in time. So yes, you're probably right. That's probably why it's 14 months later.
And that post-credit scene, it was shot on the Doomsday stage, and it was directed by the Russo brothers as well. Yeah. So
bring back post-credit scenes that are just also a part of the next movie.
Put Tom Holland in the Doomsday credit scene.
AF. Do you think this is going to be the West Coast Avengers? And who all do you think is going to be on Sam's team?
Yeah, I think Damon could be onto something over there. I think Hawkeye will be involved in some manner. He was a founding member in the comics, so I see him being on that team. You mentioned Wonder Man as well. I think Moon Knight finds a spot on that team as well. I could see that happening. But I'm trying to think of everybody that got a chair in Doomsday that could make sense for this one. She-Hulk didn't get one. Tatiana Maslany, she wasn't announced. Oscar Isaac wasn't announced, but I think he's going to be on the team anyways. But yeah, I'd like to be surprised. Let me put it that way.
Right now, he only has like 3 people.
Yeah.
If you look at that list outside of, like, if you separate Wakanda and kind of make it theirs, and you separate Thor to just be like, he's Thor, they really only have like a group of 3.
Yeah.
Or 4. Sorry, Falcon too.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So I just think that, like, I mean, they said that there's going to be more cast members to be revealed, like, in the coming months. So we'll have to wait and see. I don't think it's going to be a lot of people. Damon, you and I, we spoke about this privately, and like you mentioned, probably only about like 5 more names that you think would be added to the cast list. And I tend to agree with you. I don't think it's going to be an astronomical amount of people that's still going to be getting extra chairs for this movie.
My interview with Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Val from Thunderbolts, will be dropping shortly. You can also catch Sean Mox, aka Metalcore Nerds, and his interview with Jake Schreier, the director of Thunderbolts. We also have some Andor interviews. In addition to our Andor coverage, talking about the show every week, we also have interviews with Genevieve O'Reilly, aka Mon Mothma, Luthen Rael, aka I flipped that, but Stellan Skarsgård, aka Luthen Rael, Denise Gao, aka Dedra Miro, and Kyle Solar, aka Cyril Karn. Lots of Andor content, lots of The Last of Us content, breaking down every weekly episode on Mondays. So please, all we ask is you smash the like button to this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our shows, and follow the Agents of Fandom on socials at Agents Fandom on TikTok and Twitter, Agents of Fandom everywhere else. Damon and AF, I'll throw it to both of you if you guys want to collab this. What's coming up on the Comic Corner?
Absolute everything. Absolute Green Lantern and Superman is next week. I just looked it up on my phone as well. Ultimate Wolverine as well. Speaking of Bucky Barnes, speaking of Winter Soldier, Ultimate Wolverine is this, ladies and gentlemen. What if Wolverine was the Winter Soldier? Controlled by like a Eurasian oligarchy of the Rasputins and Omega Red. How are you not sold? You should be.
Follow the Comic Corner. I was going to say on socials, but Damon doesn't even run that account because he's trying to get away from Twitter. So just make sure you tune into the Comic Corner on the Agents Fandom YouTube page and podcast network. You can follow AF on socials at AFParker642. Don't follow Damon. You can Damon.gram or if he's still on Threads or somewhere.
I do Blue Sky occasionally.
Blue Sky.
Shit post on that.
Dave, where can the people find you on socials if you're still on social media at all? But
Yeah.
more importantly, tell us about MCU, the reign of Marvel Studios, where people can buy it, why they should buy it, and anything else you got on the horizon.
Yeah, well, I spell my name DA70 on the socials, so you can find me there on Blue Sky, on Letterboxd, on Twitter. I believe it's Grumpy DA70 on Instagram. I'm probably most active on Blue Sky if you want to actually converse with me. But if you just want to hear what's happening, all those will do well. You could get the MCU, the Reign of Marvel Studios, at themcubook.com or at your local bookstore. You could also order from the Bezos Hell site if you want. I'm not judging where you buy books. I would like you to buy my book. We also have a fantastic audio book that is voiced by the exact same person who voices Hawkeye in Marvel Rivals. And it's been great hearing his voice as I die to him whenever I jump in there. So check that out. It's a great thing to pick up if you like Hollywood history. I know you're probably super into the MCU, and we will have some Hollywood facts and perspectives to add to your already deep fandom understanding of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Hopefully it will, even years from now, be a history of that period of time for Marvel and Hollywood. That's the hope.
I hope so as well. It certainly deserves it. Thank you so much for joining us. Once again, check out MCU The Reign of Marvel Studios. On behalf of myself, Damon, AF, and Dave, we will see you next time, everyone. Peace.